Alright, welcome back to Duty's Daggers, and today I want to talk to you guys about a few really easy knife mods you can do with just buying one tool, and that is a Dremel. Now, a Dremel is a name brand for a rotary tool or a die grinder. It's basically like, Kleenex is really, it's a name brand for tissues, or Band-Aid is a name brand for bandages. Dremel is kind of the leader in die grinders and rotary tools. So this is a name brand Dremel here, but you don't have to buy a name brand one, although they are pretty inexpensive. I got the kit with this in a case with some attachments and tips for definitely under $100. I can't remember exactly. I'll put a link down below to a couple options. So this is kind of what I use in the garage for knife modding. And that's what I want to talk about today is some different easy knife mods that you can do with one of these. But I also have a larger, big DeWalt die grinder that I use for welding. This is just a small one for small stuff, knife stuff. So I'm sure most of you guys have gotten a knife and saw that the sharpening choil was not very good. And a lot of times it's really easy to fix it. A couple things you need to watch out for. You need to make sure the stop pin doesn't land in that area in the closed position. Here's an example. This is the Kaiser T1. Is it the T1? I think so. Yeah, T1 right there. This is a knife that I enlarged the sharpening choil on. You can see now it's nice and roomy, and the edge termination is far away from where it starts getting thick, right back there. So you got all this room now. It used to not be that way. But what you want to do before you do that is close the knife and watch where the stop pin hits. In this case, it hits way back down in there. So I could take away material here without having to worry about it. But sometimes in the closed position, the stop pin hits kind of right where the sharpening choil is, right in here. And in that case, you do not want to take away any material in here, because that way, if you did, when you closed it, this will be rattling around. And that's no bueno at all. You'll ruin your knife. So before you take away material, always open, shut the knife a few times. Make sure that you see where that stop pin is hitting on the tang of the blade in here, and make sure that you're not going to mess something up. I have done that once before, and yeah, it just sucks when that happens. So how I did this is with an attachment like this. You'll have to get one with the smaller shank if you have a Dremel, but this is a big 1/4 inch shank that I have on my big DeWalt die grinder, and it's a carbide. It's a carbide burr, basically. And this will move metal pretty quickly. Now, I mostly use this in my job for moving mild steel. In the case of knives, this is hardened steel, so it's going to take a bit longer, but you basically just grind away material and get it to where you think you want it. What I usually do is take a fine tip Sharpie and kind of draw on the knife what material I want to take away. That way I don't go past that line, and I draw it out, make sure it looks good with Sharpie before I start taking away material. But you'll see the radius of that sharpening choil is pretty much the radius of the burr here. So just bit by bit, slowly take away material until it looks good, and then I usually get a hand file and kind of file down the edges, because what happens is after you take away the material, there's kind of a burr on the edge there. You can see the edge is a little bit chamfered. I like to do that with a hand file, just so there's no sharp edges or anything unsightly. Now, if you just have a Dremel, you might be able to do it with an attachment like this. This is like a little mini drum sanding whatever deal. There's different grits that you can put on it. This is the kit that came with my Dremel. So there's a bunch of different attachments in here. These would work for adding a sharpening choil, although you might need something with a smaller radius. There is so many different bits and attachments for the Dremel, you go to your local hardware store. They usually have a whole wall filled with Dremel stuff, and you can look in there and find exactly what you need. Something like this would probably work good. I can get it out. This is basically just a small version of this. So this is made for moving material, for carving away material. So this would work great for removing material for a sharpening choil. Here's another knife that I fixed the sharpening choil on, the 8015. It wasn't great in here, so I just took this and carved away in here until it looked like how I wanted it. Got the edges with the hand file, just like that. So it's quite easy. Now, this steel, or any steel on a knife, has been heat treated to get its hardness and then tempered. So you don't want to heat up this metal past a certain point. Anytime you're sanding or grinding on knife steel, blade steel, you want to make sure that you're periodically dipping it in some water to cool it back off. If it reaches a certain point from the friction of you grinding on it, it can destroy the hardness. And if you were grinding in this sharpening choil and you weren't cooling it off, you might notice that it would get duller back here much quicker than it would up here, because you've destroyed the heat treat back here. So keep that in mind. Just go bit by bit. If it's back here, you don't want to take apart the knife. You don't really want to dunk it in water and get the micarta wet. So you could just go, grind for, 5 seconds, take it off, let it cool down for a little while, come back, do more, kind of, take your time. I would recommend probably taking the blade out, but make sure you draw what you want to take away with Sharpie first, because you want to remember where the handle is. What I often do is just make a line here where the scale comes up to. So now I know when the blade's off, that's where the handle scale is. Let's look at some other things you can do. Easy open notches. You can grind in easy open notches on a slip joint. If you have a slip joint that's kind of, maybe it's got a strong pull and using the nail nick kind of wrenches your fingernail, it's kind of hard to pinch open, you can put in an easy open notch, make it real easy to pull out and open the knife. This I think I used one of these first to kind of rough it in, and then I used something like this with a finer grit to kind of smooth it out, make it nice, kind of nicer looking. Just kind of same thing. I used some sandpaper to round off the edges once I was done, and it looks really nice. It's pretty much the radius of the attachment itself, so you don't really have to do a whole lot of guessing. Just kind of slowly go down until it's deep enough, and that's it. Another thing you can do, if you're feeling daring, is cutting in jimping. I've done it on a few knives. I did it on the McBee here so that I could front flip it. This doesn't come with jimping up here if you get it from Spyderco. If you get it from McNeese, their versions have the jimping already, but Spyderco doesn't do it. Now how I did this is with some very small cutoff wheels. And here's one right here. This shank comes in the kit, and it comes with a few cutting wheels, but I bought mine separately. They come like this, and they're just very tiny, very thin cutting wheels. You load them into this shank here, tighten it down with the screw there, and you just cut in the jimping just like this. Bzz, 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 bzz. You want to mark them out with Sharpie, obviously, before you start to get your spacing correct. Put this in a vise or something and really kind of, brace your hands onto something so you're not shaking around. Make sure your elbows are planted. You're resting kind of your palm on the whatever, and try to keep yourself real steady, and just, you want to kind of just go as deep as you want, not too deep, not too shallow. maybe you do a few practice runs, get a piece of metal, and just do some practice jimping so you can kind of get a feel for it. But once you get it, it's pretty easy. You know, it's not absolutely perfect, but at a quick glance, even at you know, if anyone was not into knives and saw this, they would think it just came like that, definitely. For someone like me or maybe you might be able to notice they're not absolutely perfectly spaced. They're not done by a mill, you know, a precision machine, but it certainly looks pretty good, and it definitely works very good. So you can cut in jimping too, with some practice. Another thing you can do is polishing. Now, sometimes knives need a little bit of a polish on the tang where the detent ball rides. Sometimes if the blade's been stonewashed, that area in there where the detent ball is riding can get a little rough, and that affects your action. It's just not going to fall as smoothly if that area is rough in there. Now, what I've done in the past is use these green ones right here. These are polishers. So they're not very much of a high or a low grit, not much grit at all. And you can get them in a bunch of different size and shapes. I'll put a link to these down below too. I think I got them on Amazon. And these are good polishers. So you take apart the knife and you can see where the little kind of arc where the detent ball is riding on. And you just take this in the Dremel and you kind of just polish that area. It doesn't take away much material at all. It just polishes. It takes away very small amount of material and gets it kind of more shiny and nice. And then when you put the knife back together, you'll notice that the action's just much smoother. Obviously, you want to be really careful not to take away too much material. If you use anything other than this, like if you were using this on that area, it would be very bad because you would take away too much material and you would totally mess up the action on your knife. So you just want to be polishing, not taking away any material. That's kind of what I use the Dremel for. You can also, these are little polishers. Here's some polishing compound that it comes with. You can kind of use that for some polishing, or I mean, really, you know, there's so many things you can do with these attachments it comes with. Here's a little tiny wire wheel. Might come in handy. There's just a lot of stuff, and there's so many more attachments online or at the hardware store, like I said. So, yeah, I think any knife person should get a Dremel set. I mean, think of all the knives that you could fix. You could fix their sharpening choils and just make things so much easier on yourself. You know, I used to not buy a knife sometimes because of, you know, had the bad sharpening choil, but now a lot of times I can go ahead and buy it and then fix it up myself, and it's perfect. It looks like it was meant to be that way. It looks like it was like that from the factory, you know. So that's about it. Just wanted to show you guys how easy it is, and with a little practice you can really kind of make these knives your own and fix any issues that they might have. There you go. Hope you enjoyed. I'm going to link all this stuff down below so you can go take a look at how much it is or whatever you want to do. And using the links will help me out a little bit. I think in some cases, not all cases, some of the things I might get a small kickback on. It doesn't cost you extra, but it'll help me out a little bit. That's it. Please like the video. That helps me out too. I'll see you soon. Adios.